Right now, Russia is burning. Ukraine's new superweapon, the Toloka underwater drone, is true game changer, ready to tear apart Moscow Black Sea Fleet. Our spies just pulled off the impossible weapon, outray Russian ambitious plans in a daring strike that made history. And in Krasnodar, the night turned into fire and fury. Ukrainian drones smashed Russia's power grid and threw its airports into chaos. On the battlefield, Ukrainians' counteroffensive is breaking Russia wide open, and the panic has already reached the Kremlin. Welcome to Ukraine Today. I'm Yaroslava Kolesnikova, and tonight we bring you the strikes, the fire and the collapse of Putin's empire. Ukraine's new superpower, Toloka underwater drone, a game changer. Ukraine just unveiled a new family of underwater drones that could change naval warfare. At the Defense Tech Valley 2025 show in Lviv, makers of Toloka revealed three models: the TLK-200, TLK-400 and the Giant TLK-1000. And the message was loud and clear: Ukraine is building a new kind of sea weapon. Developers say these drones do many jobs. They can search the sea floor, spot and clear mines, watch and gather intelligence, carry cargo and even act the underwater strike drones. The company claims the largest model, the TLK-1000, can carry heavy loads up to several tons of long-range stocks. Key features the makers highlighted: stealth design, long endurance, some model can operate underwater for months at a time, deep diving about 1 kilometer, modular payloads, swarm and network. Technical control change with the environment. While submerged, the drone rely on internal navigation. When surface, they connect to satellites for long-range control. This mix lets them run long missions out of sight, then report back over long distance. The TLK-200 and TLK-400 are said to be ready for serial production soon. The TLK-1000 is finishing tests and may enter mass production if trials go well. Company spokespeople told media that the TLK-1000 is the flagship, bigger, stronger and built to carry heavy loads or larger weatherlets when needed.
Вона найбільш швидка в нашому асортименті апаратів. На ній радіозв'язок, але є варіанти портування, проброски його для зв'язку з нею через інтернет, щоб оператор не підвергався відповідно небезпеці, знаходячись поруч десь на берегу. Вона може займатися мінуванням, може слугувати для розвідки як FPV-дрон, може використовуватися знову ж таки як камікадзе. Може виконувати місії по скануванню дна водойм, розмінуванню. Фактично, це залежить від композиції сонарів, які ви на неї розташуєте. Цікаво, в нас всі дані агрегуються в одній центральній системі обізнаності, де оператор може бачити, може вручну управляти прямо з цієї системи, відповідно, кожен дроном окремо. Дрони можуть об'єднуватись в сворм за допомогою IP-зв'язку. Зараз дрони можуть слугувати як реле один для одного через систему акустичних модемів або через радіозв'язок, наприклад, дрон, який має інтернет-підключення, може спілкуватися з дроном, який зараз знаходиться під водою через акустичний модем.
А які сценарії застосування для війська продуктів? Ви їх пропрацьовували? Тобто, ви розумієте, як це могло би бути?
В нас, відповідно, майже кожен наш продукт і кожна конфігурація наших апаратів, вона зроблена якраз під потребу.
Why this matters? Underwater drone like Toloka can threaten ships, ports and undersea pipelines, and they can make mine clearance. They also force an enemy to spread resources to guard coasts, ports and shipping lines. In short, this system multiply Ukrainians reach into the sea quietly and with precision. If the company claims hold up in real combat, Toloka could be a major step for Ukrainian's navy and defense industry and use silent phone were a managed system to the hardest and most dangerous work. Ukraine's spies just made history. Rare Russian ambitious plans destroyed in daring strike. Ukrainians military intelligence has pulled off an operation of the history books. Fighters from the Hurhost unit unleashed chaos in the skies over occupied Crimea, taking down not one but two ultra-rare B-12 Chaika anti-submarine amphibious planes and torching a Russian Mi-8 helicopter for good measure. The B-12 Chaika isn't just another old Soviet relic. This strange hybrid aircraft, born in 1916s, was designed to hunt submarines, drop torpedoes and depth charges, and take off from both land and sea. Russia kept a handful in service as a treasure of its naval aviation. Now, the treasure is gone. What was once a pride of the Russian fleet is nothing more than burning wreckage on Crimea soil. Despite their age, the B-12s were considered valuable for Moscow both as symbols and rare machines almost impossible to replace. Ukrainian strike didn't just destroy aircraft, it erased part of Russia's naval legacy and dealt a humiliating blow to its Black Sea ambitions. From now on, those legendary planes will live only in history books and scrap metal. Ukraine has made sure of it. Firestorm in Krasnodar, Ukrainian drones smash Russia's power grid, airports in chaos. The night skies over Russia's Krasnodar region turned into a battlefield and Moscow lost. Dozens of Ukrainian drones swarmed the area, encircling the region and overwhelming Russian air defenses. Locals filmed the chaos as explosions lit up the horizon.
Не видно, но слышно по-любому. Это не самолет, не вертолет.
The result, a crushing blow. At least 5 direct hits struck the Kanivska traction substation in Stanitsa Starodevyankivska, sending shockwaves through Russia's energy network.
Пиздец.
As always, local officials rushed to cover it up, downplaying the scale of destruction and reporting mirror damage. But the truth slipped out. The skies had to be shut down, airports thrown into emergency mode, and flights grounded in panic.
Fragments of a UAV fell on the territory of 3 private households in Slavyansk na Kuban. The facades and roofs of houses were damaged. Window panes were broken. Also, due to falling debris, grass in the industrial zone caught fire. There were no injuries. Emergency services are working on the scene.
Russia can lie, Russia can hide, but it cannot stop Ukrainians' drones. Krasnodar is burning, the airspace is closed, and the myth of Russian control has been shattered. Ukraine's counteroffensive breaks Russia, Kremlin in panic. Russia's front lines are cracking. Ukraine has launched a fierce counteroffensive and Putin's army is already panicking. On some sectors, Russian troops are fleeing. The battlefield is shame. On others, they are desperately clinging on, fighting with their last strength. Where exactly is Russia collapsing and how far can Ukraine push? Full breakdown in our report.
The Ukrainian counteroffensive continues. In the joint forces, they managed to divert the attention of the advanced assault groups away from Pokrovsk. The GUR in Crimea hit Russian helicopters and a radar station. Near Kherson, assault groups on boats were destroyed. And investigators have confirmed the deaths of more than a dozen Russian officers as a result of a saboteur operation. Everything happening on the front today, watch it right now. In just a few days, the scale has doubled. The Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Donetsk region continues. According to President Zelensky, 330 square kilometers of territory near Dobropilya and in the Pokrovsk area have been returned to the control of the Ukrainian armed forces. Of these, more than 170 have already been completely liberated from Russian troops.
Specifically in Pokrovsk, and the Ukrainian defense forces have deoccupied a new economically and successfully. This is a significant improvement in the tactical successes of the Ukrainian defense forces, which have effectively prevented the occupiers from achieving tactical gains and eliminated the threat of an operational encirclement.
In turn, the strikes by the Ukrainian armed forces have made it possible to speak of the encirclement of the Russian group, which, instead of the expected blitzkrieg, has already suffered more than 2,500 losses on this section of the front alone.
Personnel refers to the individuals employed by an organization or institution. These people contribute their skills, knowledge, and efforts to achieve the objectives and goals of the entity they work for. They are a crucial asset to any successful operation, encompassing all staff members, employees, and the workforce within a company or department.
According to experts, it is in this direction that Russian forces will concentrate their main efforts in the near future. To hold their positions, Russia deployed the 61st Marine Brigade to the region, as well as most of the combat-ready units from the entire front line.
Russian special forces have also appeared in Dobropilya, elite units whose sole task, once again, is to break through and relieve those troops that have found themselves, let's say, in a situation that shows signs of encirclement, which is indeed the case today. This is very important. The reserves that the Russians had planned to use for completely different purposes are now being thrown in to break through and relieve Russian troops in Dobropilya.
At the same time, it seems likely that the Russian command still does not fully grasp the scale of their failure in the Donetsk direction. President Zelensky said that enemy maps captured during the counteroffensive in Donetsk region show that the Russians are simply lying to their leadership and not reporting the real situation on the battlefield. Because of this, among other reasons, they are not receiving the necessary resources, unlike the Ukrainian armed forces.
This counteroffensive operation continues thanks to the efforts of the 1st Azov National Guard Corps, our assault troops, assault units, and other dedicated divisions. And it is these counteroffensive actions by our defense forces that have led to the fact that today we can say that 160 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory have been liberated. I can't recall throughout this year or the previous one such large areas being liberated.
Clearly inspired by the successes of our assault units, the General Staff Command decided to designate such groups as a separate branch of the military, which will allow for specialized intensified training focused specifically on storming enemy positions. The corresponding changes are expected to take place by the end of the month.
It is necessary to combine defense and accordingly attacks and the execution of effective operations on the enemy's flanks and rear. Such a combination, I think, will logically unite the efforts of these troops, and they will become, so to speak, a single branch of our armed forces. And of course, these are the tasks they carry out. I still see this as the active part of our armed forces, capable of conducting operations in the most difficult areas. This includes strikes against the enemy. This is Another important aspect to consider is the fact that there are many different elements that contribute to the overall success of this particular endeavor, and each one deserves careful attention and consideration.
Point on the front where the Russians are currently especially active is Kupiansk. According to Russian media, almost half the city has already been occupied, but in reality it is only reliably known that fighting is taking place on the outskirts of the settlement.
It's too early to make predictions about how the situation will develop further, since a direct assault on the city always takes a long time. So far, the situation does not look critical for the Ukrainian army, according to the CIT analyst. We'll see if the redeployment of the 3rd Assault Brigade, which has previously acted as a firefighting team, will help.
At the same time, the defense forces are showing good results in other directions as well. For example, the day before, the main intelligence directorate, HUR, reported that with drone strikes in Crimea, fighters managed to hit 3 Russian Mi-8 multi-purpose helicopters at once. They also significantly damaged the multi-million-dollar Nebo radar station. Drone operators from the 40th Coast Guard Brigade also made their mark. Near Kherson, they detected Russian assault troops on boats. It's not hard to guess what happened next. At the same time, our command reports that Russian UAV specialists also took a hit from Ukrainian drones the day before. That much-hyped Rubicon Center, which is supposedly the best at training occupiers to work with drones, is temporarily shutting down.
This is one of the most combat-ready units. Plus, they have these new, heavily promoted technologies, drones, the ones that... Well, and it is. Finally, at long last, after all this time, we have reached this very moment.
Investigators were able to confirm the rumors from 2 weeks ago about the elimination of Russian officers in the Zaporizhzhia region. The elimination did indeed take place. The names have been identified. The officers really did die on the spot.
In the area of the village of Voskresenka in the Zaporizhzhia region, which was occupied as a result of a successful joint operation by the GUAR and the Mariupol resistance, the command post Rosayan 35A was completely burned down. 17 officers and 1 private were killed. The officers were in charge of the offensive on one of the sectors in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Now there will be no offensive. I Want to Live published a list of the deceased by name and clarified that on August 30th, unknown individuals allegedly set dry grass on fire near the command post of the 35th Army. The fire quickly spread to the buildings and dugouts of the command post. Due to the smoke and the command post filling with carbon monoxide, the staff at headquarters were unable to escape.
At the same time, apparently, after such news, the failures of the Russian army have also affected Russian mobilization. Thus, the Center for Countering Disinformation stated that for the first time, losses in the occupying army have exceeded the number of people willing to sign a contract and go to war.
That's all for today on Ukraine Today. If you believe the truth must be louder than Moscow's lies, like, comment and subscribe. Want to stand with us on the front line of information? Become a sponsor and help us keep exposing Russia's crimes and showing the world Ukraine's fight for freedom. Stay informed, stay strong and stay with Ukraine.